Okay, so today I have my good friend and longtime, I guess, colleague, or I've known you for a long time now, Lynn Tarini. She is the head of enterprise and leader communications at CSL. Lynn and I go way back to our GSK days. Um, we didn't often work directly together, but I think we knew people through people, and then we had the Philly connection, both being from Philly, and then you and I used to get we shared the same similar dry sense of humor. So I debated if I wanted to start with a joke. I don't know if Zoom is a good medium for this, but for you, I would say I'll start with a super corny joke, and I
Okay.
hope that the people on LinkedIn or YouTube, you're going to get to know my terrible sense of humor. So this is for you, Lynn, more than them, I guess. So there's two muffins in an oven. And the one muffin turns to the other muffin and says, "Oh my God, we're gonna die in this oven." And the second muffin says, "Oh my God, a talking muffin?" All right, we're gonna move past that one. So, so all right, there you go. That's a good way to start this. And to
Perfect.
get past that, I'll turn it over to you. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your career path, and your current role?
Sure. I mean, how do I follow that? Number one. But yes, I look after a team of communications professionals who support enterprise, so employee communications, and then support our most senior leaders in the organization. So we do everything from all of our HR communications, things that we have to send out around benefits, about performance management, talent management, but we also support all of the others enabling functions, legal, procurement, et cetera. So all of that sits under my team's remit. And we're a relatively new team, so we're forming. And so it's been actually a really interesting time to get a group of people together and say, okay, the environment's changing, the world's changing. How do we want to show up? What do we want to do? How do we want to help the company deliver? And so, yeah, it's a really interesting time. We have a lot going on in our organization, responding to a lot of the challenges that we're facing. And yeah, it's been a whirlwind of the past few months.
Okay, thank you. So what inspired you to pursue a career in communications? Did you always want to do, I know from my perspective, you're a good writer. I'm not sure if you always wanted to pursue writing in some form and you ended up in corporate comms, or tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I didn't even know what corporate communications was when I was in college. So I thought I was going to be a journalist. That
Okay.
was my plan, or a novelist, something. I definitely wanted to write. And I was a sophomore in college, and I was a part of an organization called International Association of Business Communicators, or IABC. And again, I'd taken communications as a minor at the time. I
Okay.
didn't want to do broadcasts. I knew that for certain, but I thought there would be some really good skills that I could learn. And as part of my involvement with that group, I ended up. It's actually a funny story. We were having an event, and I was responsible for food. And you know how it is back when you're in college, and everybody's kind of dividing and conquering. And catering hadn't shown up, and between classes, I kind of walked down to check the space out, and things weren't where they were supposed to be. So I kind of just dropped my bag, started putting stuff together. And I didn't realize that our guest speaker had arrived already, and she was kind of sitting in the corner. And she pulled me aside afterwards and said, I just loved how you kind of came in, took charge of everything, and I'm looking for an intern. And would you be interested? And I'm dating myself here, but she's like, do you write? Could you send me some writing samples? So like that evening, I went to the library, photocopied, but some writing samples, put
Hmm.
them in the mail, and sent them to her. And a few weeks later, I had an internship at what was then Smith Klein Beecham,
Okay.
um, in the employee communications team at the time. And I had an amazing manager, Debbie Moore. Hey, Deb, if you watch this, who really just saw something in me, took a chance on me, and just gave me the most incredible experience. So I mean, I was her sidekick. She allowed me to sit in on meetings, do things, go to photo shoots, do all of it. And I was like, this is amazing. And I got the bug, and it's all I've ever done since then is worked in, different communications functions, supporting different parts of the business. But yeah, it all goes down to that team that I worked with when I was 18.
I love that. I started at GSK as an intern too, or a co-op. So,
Mhm.
um, I love that. Finding your way in the door, however it works, and then working your way through that. I just had our mutual friend Bob Carr on, and he talked about um, the mark of a good leader being kind of the trickle down effect of the impact that you make, not just on your immediate team, but the impact that they can make on their immediate teams and how it can branch
Right.
out. I know, like I said, I didn't work directly with you often, but a lot of times people on your team were working with some of our projects in the benefit
Yeah.
space and in HR. And so, did you take anything from your manager at that point, or did kind of not pay it forward's the wrong word, but um, what would you say?
Well,
How would
actually, I
that,
mean,
how would you?
I did. I felt
Okay.
I needed to pay it forward, and a lot of our mutual friends actually hired as interns. So I knew what that experience gave me, and I knew what it was like to have a manager who just believed in you and
Hmm.
just let me try things.
Hmm.
If they failed, I was learning. And so she really kind of created that space for me. I learned so much more there than I did in any classroom, in terms of, failure, because you can do really well on tests and exams and all of that. It's when you get into the real world and you have somebody come back and say, "Oh, I think this could be better,"
Hmm.
or "We could have done this differently." So yeah, I couldn't wait until I was in a position to take some, young talent who, maybe a bit raw, but anyone who's hungry to learn. And we had such great experiences with our co-ops and interns, so,
Hmm.
who are still some of my really good friends, but they to watch them go on and do amazing things in their careers too. It's just been That's been probably the proudest, the best accomplishment I think I've made in my career are the people that I've had the privilege to lead, and help them shape their career. And not all of them have stayed in comms, but I think they've all gone out and they've applied their critical thinking skills and writing and communicating, and they're just doing great things. And again, so it does go back to paying it forward, because if Debbie hadn't taken that chance on me, I wouldn't have known the impact of that. And she and I also connected. We had that Philly connection as well. So it was great. We were just, we bonded right away. And I think, again, it gave me the opportunity and the fire to kind of like, there's so much we can learn and share with people. And I think the other thing that taught me was I've never taken a risk on someone where they did not absolutely exceed my expectations. And I think there's like it's a bit of a negotiation, right? So if you say like, yeah, this might be out of your comfort zone, but I think you can do it, every time people nail it, hit it out of the park. So that was something, again, I learned at a very young age and have tried and continue to try to do that with my team.
I love that. Thank you for saving me. I was trying to articulate my question, but I totally agree with that. And kind of building on that. So, you talked about how proud you are there, about the impact that you've made on your team. What are some other key milestones in your career journey that kind of either that you're proud of or got you where you are today that you think are worth mentioning?
So I took a couple of risks, right? And things that I stepped out of my comfort zone. And I would say that's probably, sometimes I had to be coached to step out
Hmm.
of my comfort zone. It wasn't that I was always the person seeking out those opportunities, but may have like a colleague or a friend say like, "Have you considered that role? Maybe you should apply for that." Or, is this an area or a project that you want to get involved in? And so I would say I'm the areas where I've made the best and most significant impacts are the ones where I didn't necessarily know how I was going to perform in that particular role. So yeah, so I think taking different opportunities, different chances to learn things. Um, Again, working for a global corporation, and I've had the benefit of working for global corporations for the past. We'll leave the years out of it, but for the majority of my career, and I I think there's so much to learn about cultures and um, just getting a bigger view of the world. And that's something you and I used to joke about, being kids from Philly, and remember like we would be traveling in different parts of the world and coming back and sharing stories and be like, who knew?
Or yeah, and
Who knew?
the thing that I know you and I we spent a lot of time in London together too, and
Hmm.
we were lucky, and I say this now because especially looking now that I don't do it as much, we had the privilege of flying business class all the time, and I still remember like I used to joke about how it was like the kid growing up without cable. It's like it didn't
Yeah.
matter until you got a taste of cable, and you're like I can't go back to not having cable. Where they in coach they'll throw bag sandwiches at me, and then in business class they give you whatever you want, champagne, there's silverware, there's actual meals. And so I still remember the first day on there. I felt like I didn't belong, and so I know you and I used to commiserate
Yeah.
about that. But yes, I totally agree with you, and sorry to cut you off. I want to hear more.
No, no, no. But I think it's that it's you know when you get an opportunity, and I think this is just something it's so important, whatever in whatever capacity of your life, you have to embrace it
Hmm.
fully. Um, and my favorite thing are like talking to my colleagues, past, present, who are from outside of the U.S., outside of the Philadelphia area, and just what is your normal day like? What do you do? Like, where do you shop? What do you buy? So all those like small things. That you just help to understand people, and it's been so fun to even go back to the UK and see friends from GSK that we worked with long ago. You know, their grandparents, their kids are grown, and you've had these long-term relationships with people who are on another continent.
Yeah,
And I consider them some of my really good friends.
yeah, I totally agree with you. I know for me, one of the things that I took or I considered a risk was I didn't have my passport until I was in my 20s. So for me to travel as much as I did in my previous role was a huge risk. I was scared as hell to do that,
Yeah.
and I'm so glad I did. But yeah, so totally agree with you. Thank you. And building on kind of that question that you get asked, what does a typical day look like for you now in your current role?
There is, I mean, people say this all the time. It sounds cliche. There is no such thing as a typical day. Today we had a town hall event, and half of the leadership team, I was supporting the event, and half of the team were at one of our offices in the UK, and we had a fire drill in the middle of our town hall, right? So right as we were like right smack in the middle of Q&A,
Always
and
nice.
fire
Yep.
alarms went off, and half of the team had to leave the building, so we had to wing it with the team that we had, and just try to kind of keep the momentum going. People obviously were very understanding, but I mean it's just things like that, where you can plan and plan and plan and get a fire drill. So I think that's part of it, but I think I see it as a real privilege that I've spent the majority of my career doing internal communications, employee comms, internal engagement. It goes through different titles,
Sure,
variations,
sure.
but it basically, um, I've gotten a lot of joy out of that. I've done other roles in comms, but really, when you're doing something that's employee facing to me, it's just so meaningful. And so, most of my day, believe it or not, is actually not writing. It's having conversations with people. It's connecting the dots, right? So putting yourself in the shoes of an employee who's getting hit with a barrage of information from all over the place, both at home, at work, on their phones, etc., and trying to find that, like, okay, how will I make this meaningful to them? What's in it for them? Why do they care? Why should they care? And if they don't care, tell them that they don't need to care, but it's just something that we just need you to have in your back pocket. So we get to do a lot of that, and so I would say majority of my day is really talking to people, trying to get underneath, how do we get people motivated and inspired. We spend a lot of time with our senior leaders, just again coaching, advising, giving some perspective. We're going through a change. Okay, well, you've had months to get your head around this. People are hearing this now for the first time. Remember, we got to bring them along on the journey. So we do a lot of that on a typical day. But I would probably say, sadly, I spend most of my days in meetings.
Yeah, that's
And a lot of firefighting. That's kind of the nature of the job.
so I haven't asked this before, but I'm curious. So I had Crystal on an earlier
Mm.
episode too, and we kind of talked about how using this, for lack of a better term, I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but like the Philly mindset
Mm,
as a positive. Like I've never looked at it as something that would hold me back. I looked at it
yeah,
always as a strength. And I know we joked about like the story I told in the Bob episode is like the difference between East Coast and West Coast. Something you just said right there was around like, well, maybe you don't need to care about this, but we still need to share it. Do you view it the same way? Like, do you think that your perspective or the fact that being direct on the East Coast, do you use that as a strength to influence your communications? Because from my perspective, I always appreciate like being upfront, honest,
yeah,
everything on the table. I'm just curious, like, do you think where you're from plays an influence into, I, I, I think it does in broader roles, but I'm curious
yeah,
around like when you're developing a voice for corporate communications,
yeah.
how do you
Yeah,
approach it?
absolutely. And you know, we talk to people like they're adults because they
Yeah,
are, right? And so as we both know, I am pretty direct. Um, I don't like to shy away from things, even if it means it might seem confrontational.
same here.
It's
Yeah.
not meant to be confrontational. I'm just kind of sharing.
Hmm.
And so that I think that has served me well because it does help me kind of again think about, cutting through the crap, really,
Yeah.
and just like kind of like helping people understand and say things as they are. However, I have had to adjust that style for the leader that I'm supporting, right? Because that might be my style,
Yeah.
but it might not be the leader style. And so one of the things that we do need to kind of be thoughtful of is like the voice and making sure that we're helping the leader be authentic. So if somebody is not very direct and bold and may want to kind of gloss over things, not gloss over, but I think maybe kind of come around it a little bit differently. And,
Sure.
there's always different cultures that influence people. So that's been a muscle I've had to build because not everybody's from Philly and not everybody will speak and talk, the way that I would. And so I've had to catch myself a few times. And I had one of my biggest missteps ever in my career was advising a senior leader to do a live broadcast. Um, who was not somebody who was comfortable with broadcast. He just wasn't, it was not in anything he wanted to do. And I was like, no, this would be great. Just get out there and you just tell them, here's where we are. Absolute failure.
Yeah.
And that was like for me a really important lesson that what works for me maybe doesn't always work um, for a leader that I'm supporting. Um, that being said, I do believe in honesty and transparency. And there is a way to get both,
Sure.
maybe not quite as bluntly as
Yeah.
I tend to do it on my own.
But I think the way you frame that is a really good learning, despite whether you're supporting someone, whether you're leading someone, it's you remaining authentic, but allowing others to be authentic too, like giving
Yeah,
them the space to do so. And then recognizing that just because you would do something different doesn't make the other way wrong, right?
right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
Um, okay, so are there any aspects of your job that might surprise people?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the job itself that's evolved or, as you become more senior. But I think sometimes people will look at the communications function as the order takers, right? That we're sitting around waiting for people to tell us, oh, can you go off and write this or can you send that? And I do think, it people who haven't had maybe a strong partner or haven't worked very closely with a communications partner, we are strategic partners. We do understand the businesses we support. And so, I think one of the things I think will surprise people is like when you give us a seat at the table and we're there and we're helping you as you're making your decisions, think through a number of scenarios. And it might not have anything to do with comms, right? But again, because
Hmm.
we connect dots so much, I might have visibility to something that's happening over here, and play air traffic control a bit and say, oh, maybe that's not the time. Maybe we should do it at another date. So I do think our roles have shifted really from being that, hey, can you help us get this message out? Or can you, post this on the internet or do whatever? The roles have really shifted. And a lot of times where I think I have and my team has made the most value is when we've been able to stop some things from happening as well, right?
Sure.
So it's not just like all the different things that we've delivered. It's actually what crises have we prevented, or an issue that we may have prevented. It might have been a minimal, but ooh, that wouldn't have landed well if we did it that way or did it at that time. So I often, when we were doing reviews and things, I always ask my team, and what did you stop? Not just, don't give me just the laundry list of things that you've done or some of the outcomes, but let's talk through like what are those things that we prevented from happening. So I think that that's probably something that people don't realize. We spend a lot of our time um, preventing things as well.
Okay. Um, all right, so pivoting a little bit here.
Yeah.
Another thing you and I bonded over a lot, and we've always been very supportive of each other back and forth, is fundraising and volunteering.
Mm.
Um, and I know we do it for different causes, but I know it's very important to the both of us. And I'm curious if um, like, and not just not important to the both of us. I think it's been, and not just talking about me, like my perspective,
Yeah.
I think I'm really grateful that I've been able to kind of weave that kind of philanthropic mindset into my career, and I know that you've been able to do that too. So is that something that you want to touch on, and how you approach that and the importance of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like if given the choice, I probably wouldn't have become involved in the organization that I support. Um, but life happens. And so it gives you an appreciation.
Yes.
And again, it's that concept of paying it forward, right? And so for me, the work that I do with March of Dimes, I'm on the board there. I've been working with them for the past 20 years. And it starts out as kind of, I want to get involved in the cause. I want to help raise money. I might do, an event, to it becoming part of your life's passion.
Mm-hmm.
And and there were times honestly where maybe in my job I wasn't as fulfilled, or maybe I'd kind of plateaued and like, I don't know if this is where I want to be or what I want to do. And I've always been able to find great meaning and purpose in sharing my talents with a nonprofit organization, and that goes as far as even like I volunteered where I went to high school and where I
Sure.
went to college and things like that. So it's not just in the nonprofit kind of causes, but just those things that matter to you. And so I do think it's really important to give your time and your talents to those organizations. For me though, it's another a whole other community that it's opened doors for me and my network. And there are people that I've had the benefit of working with from the March of Dimes, and on top of feeling really good about the work that we do, I've met so many great people, and people who've been touched by the cause in different ways, and who are just making amazing strides in our mission. And so it's absolutely core to who I am and what I do. And again, as we've discussed, I remember during COVID when things kind of came to a grinding halt, and the disappointment on top of everything else, you can disappoint with everything that was going on in the world. But when our big fundraising event had to be canceled, I was gutted for so many reasons. But part of it was because it's so intrinsic to who I am, and being a
Mm-hmm.
part of this community, and not seeing people for 2 years in person. Like it was just um, one of those things that it really bothered me more than maybe even some of other things that we had to adjust during COVID. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to give back, to feel good about the work you do. Again, can augment some things that you maybe aren't getting in your current role, et cetera. But I think just that building that strong community and building those relationships, which I mean, really, it all comes down to, right?
Yeah.
Relationships.
That really resonates with me. I know I used to do it started as a bar crawl, but then it kind of got into just a more family friendly event. But we used to do the Live
Yes.
fundraiser. And the last year we did it was 2019 because of COVID. And I felt like when COVID hit, like I felt like we had so much momentum. We were getting bigger every single year,
Yeah.
and then it dropped. I still fundraise, but are you so? I completely agree with everything you said, and I love the way that you framed it. Are you comfortable with sharing the impact that you've made? Because that is another thing that it is extremely proud to, like something to be extremely proud of.
Yeah,
The
sure.
number that you
So
fundraised?
yeah, absolutely. So we started fundraising in 2006 for the March of Dimes. I lost my daughter to prematurity, so it was a cause that was very near and dear to my heart. And so we formed a very small family team in 2006. I think at that year we raised $3,000, something like that. So over the past 20 years, this April we've surpassed $500,000.
That's
So it was
unbelievable.
like I think our totals are like $504,000 raised since we started. So yeah, so our little family, I say little family team, I have a pretty obnoxiously
It's
large
gotten
family.
big. Yeah.
It's not little, but I mean our family team raises more money than some of the big corporations
That is so awesome.
nationwide. And it goes back to that passion and wanting to do more and help people um telling our stories and sharing why this matters has really has helped us reach out to so many people. And every day I talk to people and they're like, I had no idea, my sister had a similar
Hmm.
experience, or, we've been having a hard time conceiving, or, so there's so many people who are touched by the mission in so many ways that you don't know. And then you spread the word and actually there is something we can do about it. So yeah, but it's been amazing this year. I wasn't sure we were going to do it, but we really, we pulled it out at the last minute.
Congratulations. You should be
Thank you.
very proud
Thank
of
you.
that. That is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, I've got a great group of people, family, friends, who help me keep it going every year. So
I love
very,
it.
very lucky. Mhm.
Um, okay, so hard to that it's hard to top, but now moving to the namesake of this series, If I Knew Then. So the idea here is kind of learning from your hindsight. So if I knew then what I know now, how would I approach things? And this could be advice for your younger self. It could be like specific situations, or what I am thinking is for people looking to follow in your footsteps, either a career change or looking into like someone young in career. Um, any insights that you could share there?
Yeah, I think there's probably two things. So
Okay.
one's pretty practical, and it's, just get the experience. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. And actually, sometimes when you learn the most is when you acknowledge
Yep.
that you're not. So go in and ask the questions and, roll up your sleeves, get dirty, figure it all out. So I would say like that's kind of been like the first thing. Looking back on my career now, again, if I knew then what I know now, I would say don't sweat the small stuff. And I was thinking about this conversation. Because we're the company where I work, we're on a different time schedule. So we're in year-end reviews, right? So we're going through all that process now. And I would say probably for the first 10 years of my career, inevitably at some point my manager had sat me down during a discussion or just a, ad hoc and said, like, you can't stress about everything. You're not gonna be able to fix everything. You get it. And it didn't sink, right? And because it's just, again, we talk about like so much of what we do is firefighting, and there's
Hmm.
a bit of an adrenaline rush there as well. But um, I look back now at the energy I expended and the stress and the sleepless nights I had over things that are so meaningless now. And so I would say it was a lesson that I learned probably too late in my career. Um, that I would just say go into it like, don't sweat the small stuff. You cannot give everything the same level of importance, because you'll burn out. And so you could really have to be really thoughtful about where you're going to put your energy, put your time, because it's such a commodity. And that would probably be the thing if I look back now and thought these were the things I really lost sleep over. It's nothing.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think that's just a huge lesson. And I wish I had listened to so many of my managers previously. So, but I'm a stubborn kid from Philly, what am I gonna say?
Well, that's great advice. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
okay, so what's next for you? What are your any future goals or aspirations that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, again, career wise, I'm fortunate that we're in a time where we're kind of rebuilding. And so that's exciting. So I'm still getting a lot of excitement about like, having a new team forming, figuring out how we're going to, you know, how we're going to do the best work we can. So that's kind of, my immediate future. Um, again, the philanthropic activities are really important. Um, the thing that I'm thinking about now most though, honestly, is like what next? Meaning not my next move or my next, but like what am I going to do when retirement comes around? How do I kind of keep myself fulfilled and thinking through? And so my partner and I, we joke all the time, like we'll have this like, oh well, that might be our, our retirement project or our retirement gig afterwards. So um, I've got time, but it is something that I think about all the time. Like, what do I want to do when I have ample time? How do
Hmm.
I want to spend it? What are the things that are going to make me happy? Where, how do I keep the mind going? So we've been actually like joking and having those conversations, and it's an ongoing discussion with my friends and family. There is a group of people, and I won't name names, but you'll probably be able to figure out who a lot of them are, um, who we always joke, from some of my former colleagues, who were, professional communicators, about forming our own agency someday.
Oh, okay.
But not, kind of like when we're not really looking to make a lot of money, but we just want to hang out together again and do really great work and be creative and silly and all of that. So I haven't given up on that. And I think, that's probably somewhere in our future. But that's definitely high on the list.
Love it. Um, all right. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, I love that you're doing this. It's so great, honestly. I love the topic. I love the whole thing, and it's so Anthony.
Thank you very much. I'm getting more comfortable, but I don't know. I didn't feel so me. I felt so uncomfortable doing this to start. So I appreciate the compliment.
Absolutely, you're doing a great job.
Thank you so much.
All right,
And thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on everything, on your success. I wish you continued success. And also, I know this is a career podcast, but really that is the $500,000 mark is something to be extremely proud of. And I'm so thrilled for you and keep up the amazing work. I'm happy to continue to support. So yes, thank you very much. I appreciate
thank
it.
you, thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.